Hi, I'm going to take you through the new Hide View feature in SharpCloud, which really allows you to start thinking about how you present your story to others that you share it with, and in particular, how they interact with the views that you've got within that story. So as you know, the views that you create are listed here in the view strip on the left-hand side. I'm just going to pin that so we can focus a little bit more on that. And over time, you might create quite a lot of views, and that can make navigation a little bit tricky for the people that you share the story with. So now there's a new Hide and Show button here that allows us to choose on a view-by-view basis whether to show or hide specific views. So in this case, I might want to hide a couple of draft views that I'm working on but that are not of any interest to anyone else who I share the story with at this point. So once I've deselected those views, then I can just save the view selection that I've made, unpin the strip, and now anyone sharing this story will not see those draft views at the bottom of the list. So straight away I've cleared up that strip a little bit by removing a couple of draft views. Now there's another option that we could use. There's still quite a lot of views here in this strip, but what we could do is create a table that allows us to navigate to our views and therefore hide all bar one of our views on that view strip. So in this example, you can see we've got the home view, and then in this table we've got a number of items that are simply click event links to the specific views in this story. So if I click on the first item in the table, it navigates me to, in this case, a strategy view. Then when I click back on the home icon, I'm back at the table, and I can then click on another view, for example the project timeline. So whilst I've got access to all of these views, I'm not seeing them all listed in the strip on the left, and that's making the interaction for me as a user perhaps a lot more straightforward. So what I want to do is show you how you can change the original story into something that has navigation of this type. So I'll go back to that story, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a category in the story setup called navigation, and that category is going to allow us to add items that are specifically just used as click events, and in short they're a way of linking to the views in the story. Having added the new category, I'm going to say no to showing it on all of my existing views, but then I'm going to create a view specifically to show my navigation items, and in this case it's going to be a table view, and I'm just going to rename that, and I'm going to make a couple of changes just primarily to start with to move that table view to the top of my view strip. So I'm just going to arrow it all the way to the top, and I'm going to give it a different icon. So now I've got that view ready to customize at the top of my view strip. The next thing I'll do is I'll filter this table so that it only shows me navigation items. It doesn't show me any of the other items in my story. So here now I've got an empty table waiting for me to create items that I can then link to the various views. And I'll start to add a couple of items. I'm going to move this into the navigation category and rename it. And I'll give it a description. And then the key thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to link this using a click event to one of my existing views. Then I'm going to repeat the process and add other views or other items that I'm going to link to views. Again, giving click events to link them to the specific views. So now we've created a couple of items. You can see them here in the table, and we can just test the navigation. So when I click on the first item, you'll see that it will jump me to the second view down in my story. If I go back to the table and click on the second item, that will jump me down to the third view in the strip. So by using this process, I can then hide all of those views simply by creating first individual items that link to each of those views and then hiding them on the strip. So now it's simply a case of coming into the view strip and hiding the views that I no longer need. and repeating this process for all of the views in the story. You might also want to add some additional attributes into your story that help to describe the views or the reports in more detail. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and change the table to show some of the other attributes that I've defined within this story. So I'm picking the responsible person and also report order, report status and report type. And I'm just going to put these in a particular order, and I'll deselect a couple of the other attributes that we don't want, such as start and category. So now what I've done is tailored the table so that we're seeing potentially more useful information on this first table view. And then it's just a question of filling in that information. So I might, for the first item, come over to the Attributes tab, just show the filtered attributes that are used on the table, and start filling in information as appropriate. And I'll repeat this for the second item. And now what I've got is a table that is both acting as navigation and providing me with a little bit more information about each of the views, or reports if you like. So I can see what status they are, who's the contact if I need more information, and whether they're consolidated or apply to particular markets. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So if we simply continue this process of defining, creating the items and linking them to different views and giving them the various attributes that we think are relevant, and then hiding the views that we're linking to through the table, we'll end up with a view as we saw before, like this. And this view, so we've changed the background image, again something you can just do on the view options, but this view also gives us some additional filtering capability, as you'll see down here. So at the moment we're only showing reports or views that are classed as consolidated, so maybe they relate just to the overall picture within our business. What we could also do is show some other views that we've got categorized as perhaps relating to the UK or the US market. So through this approach we can unveil different numbers of views appropriate to different audiences and allow them to select them from a simple table interface. Now we could, instead of having a table interface, we could have used a wall view or a grid view, but the table view is a great way of providing additional information about each of the views that people will see. And again, we could use tags, as we see here, maybe to filter the views on show according to which ones relate to the PMO, so only these two, or which ones relate to the business team. So we've got a very nice way of using the combined capabilities of SharpCloud to provide a better navigation and a simpler experience for people that we share our story with.